Hey everybody, ronarray here, and as the league progresses, the prices change and additional farming strategies are coming out on top. So today I want to share the strategies that I've been using pretty consistently from like day 4-5 of the league. That strategy could be pretty hard, but it can lead to a pretty decent amount of divines per hour. I'm also going to share a few tips how you can make it significantly easier for yourself if your build can't handle the maximum setup too. Let's go, and I will be able to explain what you will need to have and how you're going to make your currency with Harvest Crop Rotation. So in the current economy, especially when prices for Lifeforce significantly inflated, you can make something between 20 and 30 divines per hour while running this strategy. I'm going to showcase what I ended up with when I ran this strategy for 1 hour, and the final number for me being about 26 divines, but I think it could go a little higher or a little lower, depends on your luck. But generally, it's a very good way to profit because you're going to receive a pretty stable numbers of Lifeforce from most of your maps, and Lifeforce currently is only going up. So first off, let's talk about the maps that we are going to run. For that strategy, initially, I've been running mostly tier 17 maps. So for tier 17, you will have only 2 proper options to run. It's most of the time Fortress or Abomination, and there's like a good reasoning for both. So Abomination is pretty much the cheapest tier 17 right now, except the Citadel, which you can run pretty fast. So the boss is not amazingly hard to kill, you can still do it fast if both will not get overbuffed. And you can complete map in a pretty normal time frame. Fortress, on the other hand, is much easier and also dropping additional currency because in the Fortress you're going to destroy the barrels, and barrels are dropping currency pretty often. So for that test, I've been running Fortress myself. However, if you're absolutely sure that your build can handle any kind of tier 17s, you can always run Abomination if you prefer it. I honestly don't really like Abomination as a map, and I prefer to run Fortress. Another interesting option that you can utilize is pretty much running 16.5 maps instead. That way you can get like a pretty decent numbers too, and it should work just fine. So for tier 17, the most important part here is the pack size. We will need pack size for Harvest to get as many monsters in the map as possible. And the second bonus that I'm usually rolling is just like currency or Scarabs. So for example, map like that, huge pack size 50% together with 100% more Scarabs is going to work just fine. Same goal there, so we have a huge currency percent and like a pretty nice pack size. Most of the time I recommend to have at least 35% or higher pack size for tier 17 with risks. And if you're not going to run risks, which I'm going to talk a little more about later in this video, I recommend to get at least 45-40% of the pack size. For tier 17, it's pretty much the same, so again, like Scarabs, currency, and the pack size as high as possible. Usually, for tier 16.5, I recommend to push pack size even further, so like 40% and higher will be pretty mandatory for the most situations. Make sure that your build can also handle the modifiers that you will have in the maps. Because during like farming that strategy, you're probably going to die from time to time because there's like risk Scarabs involved, but you need to at least always finish the harvest. That way you're going to receive currency back and there are going to be no issues. Now let's talk about the Scarab that we are going to use for that strategy. The most important Scarab is Horned Scarab of Awakened. It gives you can select one imbued crafting option on the map device. And we're going to just select the harvest here. So when you're talking to your map device, you're placing Awakened Scarab there together with the map, you will have Imbued Harvest option. The bonus for Imbued Harvest is that harvesting area have 50% chance for unchosen crop not to wilt, and also 50% chance to spawn an additional monster. It's stacking very good with crop rotation, so Horned Scarab of Awakening is the most important Scarab for the strategy. Make sure you're always choosing Imbued Harvest together with your map and you're always using that Scarab. That Scarab is almost 1 divine right now, but you're going to receive most of your currencies that you spend for Scarabs back. And the next Scarab which are always going to be used, it's Harvest Scarab of Dublin. Harvest Scarab of Dublin is giving you like duplicated Lifeforce, so make sure you always have Horned Scarab of Awakening and Harvest Scarab of Dublin. The rest of the Scarab is pretty much depends on the situation, so for that test I've been running triple Cartography Scarab of Risks. Cartography Scarab of Risk is going to provide additional modifiers to the area. And 3 of them stacked are going to provide 6 random modifiers to the area, which is very good. More modifiers will lead to more pack size, and if we will reach 100% pack size, monsters from Harvest are going to be duplicated, and we are going to receive even more Lifeforce. It's very important, and I always recommend to run Cartography Scarab of Risks if your build can handle it, even if you will die occasionally here and there because of the bad modifiers. You should be able to at least clear Harvest. However, if you can't handle it for some reason, you can always use Scarab of Monsters Lineage instead, because there's like magic monsters in the Harvest and you're going to receive magic pack size from them. So people also using Influence Scarab of Hordes, but I'm not a big fan of that, and if I can handle it, I would probably prefer to run double Monsters Lineage and 1 Risk, if it's possible. If not, you can definitely try to run Influencing Scarab of Hordes too, because it's not too bad. Another interesting topic is that if you have enough pack size already just with double risks, I recommend to run double risks and 1 Monsters Lineage. But generally for that test, and probably the most stable way to farm currency is using triple risks, Awakened and Dublin. If you can handle triple risks, just run only 1 risk together with Lineage, and if you can't handle risks at all, just run Hordes instead. We also need to keep in mind the moment that just like Cartography Scarab of Risk is approximately 12 chaoses right now, so they're adding pretty differently to the cost, and Monsters Lineage is very cheap, it's only 1 chaos, so if you want to invest less, you can pretty much run them too. Now let's talk about the Atlas, and the most important part in the Atlas is getting all possible map modifier effects, so 2% increase effect of explicit modifiers in your maps. I recommend to take them like literally everywhere where we can, so like here, here to the left and everywhere up there. So you also will need to take crop rotation, and I'm going to get back to it a little later in this video too, but make sure you have crop rotation allocated. To make your maps easier, I also heavily recommend to take like Nico chances together with Packed with Energy. That way you're going to receive like additional maximum elemental resistances, some damage and movement speed, at least for 60 seconds. Considering that those maps with Scarab of Risks are going to be pretty hard, I think it could be a nice bonus for yourself. Getting additional shrines and bonus from syncretism is recommended literally because of the same reason, so you can make your maps easier. For the Harvest, we will need to take like Bumper Crop together with Bountiful Harvest. Don't worry about the chance to contain a Sacred Grove, you're going to always auto-spawn your Sacred Grove just from Horned Scarab of Awakening. And you will also need to take Heart of the Grove right here, and Dublin Season, because it's going to give you like chances for your Lifeforce to be duplicated, which is pretty important too. Up here, I'm also taking additional bonuses for Scarabs, so Trapping Carapaces together with Explorative Carapaces. That way we are going to drop more Scarabs of Risks, because it's Cartography Scarabs, and more Ambush Scarabs, which we will be able to sell later. I also heavily recommend to take at least 1 Stormbox together with Backup Cash, because sometimes Stormboxes, especially in tier 17s with a high percent of like additional currency, are going to drop just like some divines for you, which is pretty nice. Don't forget to take some rarity in the middle, just for additional currency. It's not heavily affecting Harvest, but it's good for the map in general. And I'm also playing like Ether with Eldritch Gaze and the Shadow of Hunger. right here, because I really feel like Ether is stacking pretty good with the strategy. And up here, I recommend to spend at least 2 points for additional chance for maps found in your maps to have memory influence, because that way you will drop more 16.5 maps in general, which is pretty nice. So let's talk about crop rotation. For crop rotations, there are usually like a few different ways how you can stack it. I'm going with that one because it's kinda risky, but can lead to a pretty good result. So I have a very low chance for yellow, because that way I'm expecting to roll only 1 yellow in the maps in general. So it will be overbuffed by all other like purples and blues that I will stack. However, it's pretty risky because there could be a chance you will get no yellow at all. In that case, I can just recommend running a little different setup. That way you can get like lower chance for blue and only 1 lower yellow. Most of the time you will just hope that you will get a lot of purple, maybe 1 or 2 blue, and the rest are going to be yellow. So that could be a little safer tactics to farm. Now let's talk a little about crop rotation itself. So that way when you're just joining the map, all your plants are going to be tier 1. You will be able to start with like colors you dislike and slowly progress to the colors you like. Most of the time you should just finish with yellow, which going to be buffed significantly after you picked all the others. So in a better map like that, you're again focusing on one color first. So since we have more violet right here compared to blue, I'm starting with a violet, after it I'm doing the blue, and picking both yellow. That's pretty much the tactics that you will need to utilize to make the fullest just for your setup with crop rotation. So in that map, for example, I received 11.5k of yellow Lifeforce. That's like more than 2 divines, pretty close to like 2.5 right now, and 12k of like blue Lifeforce, which is also 2 divines. So from that map, I received about 4.5 divines, considering we paid like almost 1 divine for the Scarabs. It's a little more. I think it's about 3 divines of pure profit just in that map, for example, which is very, very good. Now let's talk about prices and timing. So generally, one tier 17 map, which is usually Fortress, takes for me approximately like 7 minutes to complete. So during 1 hour, I've been able to complete like almost 9 maps. Some of them are a little faster, some of them are kinda a little slower, but generally like 8 to 9 maps is pretty much the normal number that should work for most of the builds. So just buying those maps like that, you will pay approximately 60 chaoses per each fortress, so 540 chaoses per fortresses. There also will need to pay almost 200 chaoses for Horned Scarab of Awakening, so 1,800 chaoses for Awakenings. On top of it, we will also need to pay like 17 chaoses per each Scarab of Risks, and we will need like 3 every time. That way all Scarab of Risks will cost 459 chaoses for us. And the last part is pretty much Harvest Crop of Dublin, that is very, very cheap, like 10 chaoses at most, so 90 chaoses per Dublin. All of those together is making the cost of running the maps approximately 13 divines. It should be like 13.5 for that test approximately, but something between 13 and 14 is just a normal price for running 9 maps like that. Also, please keep in mind that prices for Harvest and for Scarabs that we are using, especially for Awakened one, fluctuating. So most of the time when just the Scarab itself becoming more expensive, Harvest itself becoming more expensive too. So those two are kinda tied together. At the moment of filming, it's been 200 for the basic Scarab and like 5k of yellow per 1 divine, but it can change. So for example, it could be a little less for 1 divine, like yellow, it will be 5,000 for example and 200. But it means the Scarab will be cheaper as well. And if it will be like better price for yellow, yellow Lifeforce, your Scarab prices are going to be more expensive still. And now let's talk about the profit. So I dropped most of the things that I just dropped during farming like 9 maps like that in that stash tab. So right here it's very basic and we can look at all the profit. First off, the main profit comes from the Lifeforce. I dropped 64k of vivid crystallized Lifeforce, so yellow. Right now the price for it is very high. So approximately you can expect like 1 divine per 5k, and you can even go better and try to get 1 divine per 4,900. That way I received approximately 13 divines just from Vivid Crystallized Lifeforce. So Vivid completely paid for everything that we already spent. Since I spent 13 divines for all the maps, Scarabs and stuff like that. Just the Vivid making us even. From the Wild Crystallite Lifeforce, which is not really too popular, it's currently like 1 to 7.5k, I received only like 2 and maybe half divines. And from 27k of Primal Crystallized Lifeforce, which is like 6.400 per 1 divine, I received approximately like 4 divines for 27k right there. And the rest of the stuff that dropped is pretty much coming completely free as well. So all the fragments that I get from Fortress map is approximately 2 divines. I get 2 divination cards, they're like 100 chaoses each approximately, so that's about 1 divine too. I dropped 4 basic divines, which is very nice, together with Wilder puzzle boxes, like 5 of them, which is pretty nice too. I dropped 2 Scarabs like Containment and Awakening again, both of them are like 1 divine. And I also dropped a pretty decent amount of like 16.5 maps, which is 20 chaoses. So all of them would be like 1 divine max. And that's pretty much it for the items. And the rest of the bubblegum, like all the Scarabs, fusings and stuff like that, should be approximately 7 divines all together. So summarizing everything that you can see on the screen, I received a pretty much 26 divine of pure profit farming all of it. So that's 39 divines in general, but since I paid 13 from the maps, I received 26 divines in profit, mostly from like basic divines, Wilder puzzle boxes, fragments, additional Scarabs, Wild and Primal Lifeforce, because Vivid Lifeforce just paid for our expenses. So 26 divines per hour, that's pretty much what I ended up with. I honestly believe right now that you could be a little more lucky than I am and go up to 30 divines per hour. Or you could be a little less lucky and you can drop to like 20 divines per hour. But still, if your build can farm that consistently, you're going to make a very decent profit. And most of the time it should be absolutely fine. And talking about profits, there also could be small changes based on what are you farming. So for example, if you're going to farm like instead of Fortress Abomination, you're probably going to drop better fragments. If you're going to farm like 16.5 instead, you're not going to drop fragments at all, but you will be able to get like significantly less expensive maps. Because I calculated Fortress prices, which is 60 chaoses per map, and you can get, well, much better prices if you just focus on 16.5 or even use your own maps that you already farmed. Because when I ended up with 26 divines per hour profit, I pretty much calculated all possible expenses, even adding a few chaoses here and there that I spent to pretty much roll the maps themselves. Also, I'm not really looting a lot of stuff in the maps. If you're going to take all the flasks, all the rares, like all basic currency, I think your number is going to be higher too, but you will probably spend a little more time. I hope you will be able to make some currency using the strategy too, because it's been very effective for me during the whole league, and I think it will stay one of the most prominent strategies for tier 17, even later on up until the end of the league, especially if you can't properly farm a beast because you're not playing the build which is like has enough casts and you can take the mastery to open the chests. That's pretty much it, and thank you very much for watching as usual. Ronarray out and go make some divines.